Afternoon, everybody. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is the new Double Shot Show. It comes your way Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Steelers versus Colts is a 1:02 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff in Indianapolis. That might be the one state where I cover games where I never know exactly what time it is. What's the time zone there? Seriously, I'm like all over the country, all over the continent, and I know exactly what time it is, except in Indianapolis. Anyway, it's time for the Steelers to get to 4-0, and it's time for the Steelers to further the discussion, I think, about not only how real they are, but how much realer they can still get. I'm not going to lie to you. It's not the record for me. It's not looking at where they are in the standings. Believe it or not, it's not even looking at where the rest of the AFC North is in the standings, although that can be a source of considerable amusement. It's thinking about where they could be if everything began firing on all cylinders. I don't know if you go around all of their various positional rooms and depth charts and even performance that you can find, all right, I got one, maybe, position where they've probably maxed out, where they've probably capped out. You might disagree with this. Quarterback? Is that fair? I don't know. It's when you see Justin Fields ascend as rapidly as he has, and when it's not comparable to what he's done in the past, and then you see that 72.3 completion percentage, you're having a completely different dialogue now. You just are. You're thinking, all right, well, he's playing above at this level, and then he has to come down a little bit. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe there is more splash there. Maybe there's more touchdowns in that equation. Only other spot I can think of on the field where you say, all right, they're just way up here and they actually kind of belong here. Is that the secondary? I don't know. I mean, again, Dante Jackson's been doing exactly what you're seeing now since the opening day of training camp in Latrobe. Deshaun Elliott's been exactly this good since the opening day of training camp in Latrobe. Joey Porter Jr. has been doing this for a year and change now. And if you really want to get particular about the secondary, guess whose name hasn't been called all that often? Yeah. With Anthony Richardson throwing one interception every 12 attempts. By the way, that's not an exaggeration. One pick every 12 throws. Maybe this is the weekend that Minkah gets going. There's also a vibe in that room right now. There's also a sense of not just not being satisfied, they're not close to satisfied with their own performances beyond the W's. Mason McCormick's a perfect example, I think. He's a guy that gets out there to fill in for this individual or that individual. And when he does, he's tearing bodies apart. And he's one of those dudes who you can kind of sense is really, really hungry for even more. This was him today after practice on the South Side.
Yeah, I mean, this is my first year in the league, but I feel like guys are feeling pretty good and excited and eager to keep it going. You know, you can't get comfortable in this league. You learn that pretty quick. Everybody's really good, and you got to bring it every day.
I like that. I like this class. Even with Troy Fautanu being out for the regular season, you're seeing an immense contribution from this class. You're seeing Peyton Wilson out there as a starter. You're seeing McCormick get action. I think you're going to see Roman Wilson for the first time in Indianapolis. There's a lot going on right now with this team. And most of it is, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, with the arrow pointed upward.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Joined now by Chris Halleck. And Chris, when you look at Justin Fields' performance to date, there is something more, isn't there? I know that the common wisdom, if you want to call it that, around the National Football League is, whoa, look at Fields doing things he's never done before in Pittsburgh. He's freed from the quarterback hell that is Chicago and everything. And yeah, all of that's correct. The performance level is up here compared to where it was with the Bears. But doesn't it still feel like there's more?
Yeah, because the one thing that he hasn't really been doing much of in Pittsburgh that he was doing a lot of in Chicago is running. He hasn't done a lot of it, and even he was asked about it yesterday. It was the last question he asked, and he was like, "Has that been by design or anything?" He goes, "No, I need to get my legs going." Like,
He needs to get out of the rocking chair.
But he, but this is where the growth kind of takes place for Justin. He's like, listen, if my playmakers are open downfield, I'm going to get them the ball. I can throw the ball a lot faster than I can run with it. And so if that's the best way to get the ball downfield, then that's what he's going to do. But yeah, I do think it's a good blend of, okay, this is like, look at all the good things he's doing now that he wasn't doing in Chicago. Now blend that with your ability to absolutely just completely devastate defenses with your legs. And then we're talking about, okay, now this is a legitimate quarterback, like, dare I even argue, top 10 type of quarterback in the league, if you can put all of that stuff together, which is a lot to ask. I'm not saying, oh, it's just easy. 2 + 2 = no, it's a lot to ask of a quarterback, but I do think that's what you ultimately have to see from Justin in order to be like, whoa, okay, we got a guy here.
Yeah, but in fairness, there were designed runs against the Chargers. They just didn't go anywhere. And when I looked at those plays specifically after the fact, what I saw was missed blocks. What I saw was guys just didn't execute in front of him. For all we know, if 1 or 2 of those blocks hit, all you need to do with number 2 is get him past the first line. I mean, that's the way he's been forever, going back to college. Get him into some kind of area where there's even a little bit of open grass, and he's going to scare the living daylights out of you. But if you don't get past that first level, then it looks almost like a panic scramble, even when it's a designed run. And I think you know which plays I'm talking about here. The one in particular, Spencer Anderson came around and was supposed to, kind of like in a U shape, a little bit of a pool, but still to the inside, just totally whiffed on his guy. And that guy, not coincidentally, ends up taking Fields down and going, woo, look at me. But there's a lot more to this.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that some of the added context is appropriate here. For example, this past week when they played the Chargers play zone defense more than anything. And what do defenders not do whenever they're playing zone defense? They never turn their back to the quarterback. And so, when you're playing defenses, like I expected Fields to have a bigger day against Denver because Denver plays a lot of man. And so that's a lot of defenders having to turn their back to the quarterback quite a bit. And that's the perfect time for him to run. Mm-hmm. That didn't happen last week. I don't expect it to happen again this week. The Colts run out of a lot of zone defense as well. So who knows how it's going to happen? But that would be, in my opinion, the next step. Not saying that Justin needs to commit himself to one read, not there, then run. No, keep doing what you're doing in the pocket. But when the play does, like when you get to your second or your third read and it's not there, you got to just tuck it and run. And we haven't seen that yet.
Just put it underneath and go. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Now, from the throwing standpoint, from the reading defenses standpoint, see, this is the easiest thing to say in the world. Because when you and I are in stadiums and we're watching from overhead, and I actually believe I said this to you at the last game, like it's so easy from up here. You're looking from overhead, and the one play in particular where George Pickens got mad because he felt he really popped open on the left side, and Justin kept himself locked on the right side. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of what you're told as a quarterback. But there's more to him even in that regard.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He hasn't. It's not like he's completely figured it out, and all of a sudden he's this, maestro back there conducting the offense and can completely pick apart the defense like a 10-year vet that's seen he's still got some room to grow there. And this week is going to be a different challenge. Chargers ran a lot of middle field open. and you saw the Steelers attack that. The Colts don't do that as much. The Colts are in middle field closed more often than they are in middle field open. So you might see some more throws to the outside, outside the hashes, or at least outside the numbers. That's where you could see George Pickens open up. But at the same time, the Colts are giving up a lot of catches to tight ends. Is this a week that Pat Freiermuth can pop off? Can Fields find ways to make throws to him when the Colts are actively trying to take away the middle of the field? Those are different things that we need to see week after week after week when he's seeing a bunch of different types of defenses.
Now, I'll say this too. In opening the show today and talking about areas where the Steelers can still significantly improve, I purposely left out wide receiver depth play because I don't know that this group has a ceiling that's a lot higher than it is. I'm not being mean here. I mean, just, we're watching the games. So one of the things that crosses my mind as you're saying that is a lot of what we see in stadiums or later on in the All-22 film is Fields will go back, Fields will have time, and nobody's getting open. And then even as the clock continues to tick and you really ought to be coming back to your quarterback to help him out a little bit, those receivers stay covered. My goodness, that has to change. That just has to change. It's either the people doing it need to get better at it or they need to get other people doing
that
it.
100%. And I think there are two.
It's tough to watch,
it really
isn't it?
is.
I mean, you're seeing everything going right. Fields is looking around. He's checking his options. And these guys are just shoulder to shoulder with whoever's covering them. I remember seeing a chart
earlier this week. Justin Fields is dealing with receivers getting the least amount of separation, like as a whole. That includes George.
Even though George is top 10 in separation. So that tells you what the gap is between George and the rest of his crew.
And there are two ways out of that. If receivers aren't getting open, if the defenses are completely taking away Pickens on a particular play, and then Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, whoever else is not getting open, there are two options of that play. You got to check it down, or you got to tuck it and run. And he's been doing like this past week was a step in the right direction when it came to him hitting his checkdowns. Not only was he making the right decision. Yeah,
it really
he was making the right decisions,
it really
and
was.
He was accurate doing it, which we did not see in Atlanta or Denver.
Yeah, no question about that. When we come back, J1Q.
Safety is a habit. Gun safety and responsible storage are no different. Help prevent gun accidents, misuse, and theft. Keep firearms safe and secure when not in use. For safe storage options, visit projectchildsafe.org.
Today's J1Q comes from David Cardis in Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Just one question today, and that is, I hear all this talk about how TJ wrecks games. Between him and Herbig, I think a good name would be the Wrecking Crew. We don't have to stick with the Steel theme. I think Wrecking Crew sounds pretty good. What do you think about that? And is this on an elite level like we had seen in the past, like with Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green? I really think Herbig has a chance to step in there and be a permanent solution. Interested to hear what you think, and let's get that Wrecking Crew started.
Well, David, you can start the Wrecking Crew thing. Nicknames aren't my thing. That one has a pretty good theme to it. I would agree with that, although I would point way more toward Cam Hayward as being the guy who's doing the wrecking. If you think about Cam's style, he's that chaos. He's what's causing all this, as the cool kids say. The rest of these guys, I think they kind of feed off of that. They seize upon that. You mentioned, it's funny, Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green. And, Green was the one who got into the Hall of Fame, but it was Lloyd who made everything happen. Lloyd was the one who was just creating the mayhem. A similar dynamic arose many years later with Bud Dupree on the right side, causing all kinds of goofiness, causing offenses to do things they didn't want to do, and freeing up TJ to just go in there and take care of business. Now TJ's not the one-dimensional player that Green was, but the chaos theory, I guess you could call it, still applies. I'll tell you what I want to see. Sunday in Indianapolis, the Steelers are going to face a team that either runs on them or gets shut down. And for the Colts to run against the Steelers, you're going to see either Anthony Richardson or Jonathan Taylor or both hitting Nick Herbig's side hard. There's no reason to run to TJ's side. He is a known edge sealer. Herbig, we just don't know. I feel like if Herbig were to have this quiet Alex Highsmith type of game, if he were to just go out there, make all the tackles, don't miss any, shed his blocks, turn the running back toward the middle, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do as an OLB when there's a run, that would do more for him in Mike Tomlin's eyes, in Terrell Austin's eyes, I think in the entire team's eyes, than if he were to go and have that usual Herbig splash. And I know this sounds crazy. It sounds like stupid talk because splash is so important to the game. But I'm just talking about from Herbig's perspective. I feel he needs to take this step. I feel the Colts present him with that opportunity. I appreciate everybody watching Double Shot. I'm going to be heading out to Indianapolis myself to cover the game. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.